Well, welcome everyone. Um, so most of you probably would heard some kind of who Troy Bishop is, but yes, I do work for the National Grazing Lands Coalition, and that's great. But I'm also a practitioner that has knapweed, and I've had it for quite a while. And so because Nat GLC is interested in grassland ecosystems and things, knapweed has become a part of our life here in the Northeast. And everyone is not, I don't know if everyone is, but most pasture farms, especially ones that you take on, have some kind of knapweed in it. And it's very, it's quite a crop. Um, so what we're, so again, I've been battling it with all kinds of animals and strategies and everything else. My friend Leon Atwell, him and I have been friends for a long, long time, but apparently he's got knapweed, and in a big way too. And why do you have knapweed? What happened?
That's a good question, but I had knapweed before I knew it was a problem. Oh. I think I did things 20 years ago that helped with that I didn't recognize at the time. I didn't realize how serious the problem could be when it's monoculture.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about what we've our little journey here. What's been interesting is so I wrote a little mini grant to the New York Soil Health program, and they said, yeah, we'll give you a little money and we'll supply some support at people to do some soil testing and things. So so my good friend Joe works at the Soil Health. He's the director down there. I see him a lot. So he's in Pastures. Super nice guy. So we have this issue, this problem, and he was on board right away. So we had this little meeting at Cornell, and what I'd like to, so we basically, that was the name of it, and we try to say, well, what are we going to do, and who's going to do it? So you can see over here we have a bunch of things that we talked about, of what we're going to do, and there's myself and Leon, two Amish farms, Nathan and Stephen Weaver. There are dairy farms, and sheep, multi-species livestock in the Scary Valley Black Willow Pond Farm. They're crazy on Instagram. So everyone, all of us have knapweed in some regard. So when we all said, yeah, we want to do this. We just want to get together and we want to figure this out. We want to learn stuff. What was funny is we come up with all these strategies, and I just said, let's just throw the kitchen sink. The context in it though was all of us are, except for Leon, not spraying. We're not using herbicides or chemicals. Leon can.
I can point out I had a couple of fields that I sprayed with a 2,4-D several years ago, probably pre-20. And, I got neighbors who swear by it, but to me, it was just a couple of years' time. It's coming back just as strong. You have to change your management if you're going to change what's there. There's just way too many seeds produced, way too many seeds that are going to be in the seed bank to think you're not going to have to make pass after pass. So that's my opinion.
So what do you have for knapweed? If you're here, you have knapweed? Oh, so you should be up here. What is the context that you're coming at knapweed? It's, you see it as a problem, you don't have a problem, you don't want it as a problem, you have it. As
it's a potential problem. I've seen it on farms where it's like a monoculture, for other places. And it's an interesting problem of why do you get there? How do you manage it?
Right. Did you have a?
We took on some lease land that prior, and some soy sprayed and then abandoned, and then it sat out pretty much like you said, after first cut.
And again, in our context, there was some problem that got it kind of started. And so Stephen and Nathan had bought in farms that weren't really managed the best. And I mean, it was, even now, it's almost 100% in some fields. And they're milking cows. So, when knapweed's growing, there's not as much, grazable forage. And then when you're organic, you can only do a certain amount of tools. And so that fallowing is, why it's here. Like, oh man, it's like, I love this. I love that you fallowed your land, because and then the it just proliferates into, so I can take you places that are thousands of acres of knapweed, and those knapweed plants are creating so much seed, and the birds are coming and they take it away, and they're like, oh look, you got knapweed over there. And everyone seems to be talking about this knapweed. And then in the West, the spotted knapweeds, all kinds of these knapweed plants have taken over the West, right? There's a law that you have to dig it up if you see it. It's just, the vast scale of it is crazy. So again, our land base is, the more it rests, the better it likes it.
Yeah, I can definitely see, it seems to me that a lot of these places that were taking that really late cutting, because I think the knapweed could thrive underneath because it's fairly low to the ground. At least this is my opinion. I'm no expert, but I've seen a lot of it in the neighborhood that plant would have a adjunct next spring and get going, and once it really establishes itself, it's tough to control. But I will say I have a standard to a lot of my paddocks, and the paddocks that I graze well. It's not an issue to me. I don't mind it. It's diversity. I just don't like it when it starts becoming a monoculture. And I haven't worked out the formula for what creates it, but I think some of it's being too prescriptive. I've noticed in some of my paddocks, because the way I'd always rotate my paddocks, I'd go to a certain point, and that last paddock was usually oversized, and it's just the way my rotation worked, and that seems to be where it's bothering me more. So I've started changing my rotations to disrupt this enjoyment of my management.
There's been, I've had, the scientists are part of our team. Brian, Eric, I think it's Eric Brown, right? Eric. Okay. Eric. So there's been a, like, what kind of knapweed do you have? And partially, I don't know. When you start looking at that and you're in the field, you start looking at the difference between that and that. I'm out. I couldn't tell. I don't really care. Sure. So what the folks in our neighborhood have seen is, again, there's spotted, there's this, and they say, well, there's meadow knapweed. So that's just another. I don't know exactly what the differences are, but so knowing what you have. And so Brian the other day sent me this, he sent me this slide, and what he was excited about was this. This was his most exciting part, is it has a high germination rate, but the seeds don't survive very well. But they produce a ton, but they're not real vigorous. So there might be a clue there on how we keep managing it. And then the timing of flowering to vegetation is super critical, which, again, if you have a lot of it, it's all about timing, because as soon as it flowers, you need it to disappear. You don't want to keep that seed source going. And I find it rather chameleon-like, because it really does, when you look out and you say, wow, look at all that nice red clover, because it looks like red clover if you're a bee flying down, like, oh, look at all these nice clover plants. If everything's flowering, I hate to take it away just because of the pollen potential, or for the honeybees. So, but it's very, it takes on flowering color.
Yeah, and I know grazing early on in the season, my livestock will graze it pretty well. It's just when you get into that mid to late June, and then late in the fall, if it's in a vegetative state, they will graze it pretty decent. But
So part of our kitchen sink approach was we wanted to know if the soil's under knapweed infested fields or areas, there was some problem with soil health. It was it was terrible. It was locked up with phosphorus, or it was low organic matter. It was so Joe and the team, we came to all of our farms and took soil samples, just regular soil samples, and soil health tests, which are, $100 a pop, cutting the thing and putting it in the freezer and doing all this great sciencey work. I got this slide a month ago, and I asked Joe, and he goes, well, ain't much to show. Knapweed really likes great soil. And you all five have really pretty nice soil. There's really no statistical research that says in those fields of knapweed, there's really poor quality fertility or some kind of like marker that's so high, so low. It's just, eh. So then I'm like, well, okay, well, you've spent a bunch of money on the soil health tests. Oh, these are going to be much more comprehensive, which they are. But Joe uses this. Nothing is conclusive. Oh, okay. So we tried to figure out, is it a soil problem? What is it? And we found that it's really not. It's just like any other plant. It really likes good soil. Most of these, when you get into the 90s or high 90s, like you can't get much better. It's 99. You're doing really well. You're doing great. Like when you look at if all farmers and said, "Oh, I got a 99 on my soil health score," you should be raising the flag and drink more bourbon. It's great. Like look at these numbers. I mean, there's no reds. So there's nothing conclusive. So we spent a fair bit of time and dollars and got nothing. Joe says, I say nothing. Joe, the professional, says we've ruled that out. Whew. Okay. So then Eric and his assistant came to my farm, and he's more of an entomologist by trade. We started looking around for our these root weevils, these knapweed flower head weevils. They're pretty stark. So they found them, and I don't know. They brought them, put them in bags, and looked at them and talked to them and said, "Yep, those are it." Well, how did they get there? What are they doing? They're digging the plants up to find the weevil goes down in the root and lays its eggs. Oh, that's great. We dug all day. We never found one root weevil. Now, maybe it wasn't the right time. But what's interesting is there's biocontrols being done in the West and in the East, and they're seeding these guys. They have not. I've never seeded any biocontrols. These guys just showed up. So my friend Jonathan Lundgren, entomologist extraordinaire, celebrity scientist, says it takes a while for the beneficials to find your place, and then they're like, okay, they're just gonna, if you create the conditions, they will show up. The problem is I thought, well, these weevils are great. They're gonna eat they're gonna eat it to the ground like a cow. And no, what they do is a telltale sign is you start looking at the knapweed and it's white, because they eat the eat the little petals, and that's how they stunt it. I don't say they kill it, but they are out there. And part of part of our narrative has been, well, we use no wormers, we use no chemicals, herbicides, or anything. So it really is an organic system. So maybe that's why they're there and doing some thriving, but I thought they were going to be a workhorse. Like, oh man, I'm not going to see knapweed for a while. The weevils are
hoping
here.
to see swarms of them and the knapweed falling over, but
It's
I'm not going to live long enough to see them eradicate knapweed.
In some ways, the knapweed, there's so much knapweed, you'd have to have so many weevils and so I don't know where that fits in, but we still think that's definitely a positive. Like that for us in our context, it's good that they're there, kind of like dung beetles. They're there, they're doing something. But on the other side of trying to manage this is we try to defoliate. And when we defoliate, we take away their food source. So on one hand, you want them there, they're eating they got the flowers, they're living large, and then some farmers taking out their food source. So do they stay around? Well, of course, we have so much knapweed, they just fly to the next field, come back, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're like, well, we'll take a break from this field and come. I don't know. I haven't talked to them that intimately. So Stephen Weaver is a organic dairy farm. He's got about 60 head. And so he's part of our farmer observation project. So what's unique about Stephen is he's been doing rotational grazing pretty intensely for a while. And then he's a dairy farmer and he doesn't love knapweed. So he's really concentrating on how try to keep it under control. What we've noticed is these higher and drier soils, that face the south. That's all knapweed there. So there's on his farm, it's more pockets. So this picture over here, you don't see a whole lot. You can still see a little bit. So that's where the cows camp. He's fed a little bit of bales up there, and he continuously manages it well. And then he's got a clip. He clips it, at certain times. The unique part about Stephen, and we've talked about this. I said, you should start a business, because one of his thoughts is he's been applying sulfur at pretty high rates. He's organic. Sulfur is an integral part of soil health. And the fields that when he started doing real sulfur amendments, knapweed went away. Now, I don't know if it's just the sulfur or there's some. So I said, oh, farmers like, if I put sulfur on, knapweed will go away. Where can I buy this sulfur? I said, you need a business to sell sulfur, because, I like that. It's not quite that linear, I don't think. But he has got he's definitely, his sulfur and some of those amendments have really been optimized. So he has less, but he's also doing these other things.
Yeah, you have a slide, I believe, of mine where I put out some bale grazing in the winter of 24/5. No, it's not there.
We'll get
okay. And where I fed the bales and there was a ton of impact, there was no knapweed. There really wasn't a lot of anything growing for a fair amount because the soil doesn't have the activity I would expect if I bale grazed multiple times. But I think you can manage it with impact. I just don't know if I have enough animals to cover the acres fast enough to really do it.
Nathan Weaver, he's a writer for the Graze magazine, very prominent Amish farmer, grass-fed dairy. So he's been, over the last couple of years, he bought a new farm that was loaded with knapweed. It'd been fallowed for, like you said, 3 years plus, not managed well. So he's really employing the mob. These are dairy heifers. He's very methodical and purposeful on what he's doing. And so even this was last year, I go back and keep taking pictures. It's really in half. So that's a lot. Yes.
So what time of year is he putting
Midsummer.
Before it comes
Because
ahead, or?
because you can see there's a little more growth there. It's not early. It's not early.
But it hasn't like flowered?
This has. So this is I think towards the middle of July. So these guys are basically regenerating the land, if you will. So this is 100% knapweed. We've determined. You literally, there's no grass, and so Joe was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a problem. The soil health test will come back. There's a problem. The soil health test came back. It was awesome. I'm like, oh man, the soil's really great. Man, does that knapweed like to be with knapweed? Like they're pals. Like it's a party going on here. And so this is six. This is about 60 head of heifers on. That's about 16 feet by 70, and it's very intentional. And I was kind of worried, like, hey, what about what if you make an animal eat it? Will she fall apart? You know what? And Nathan, this is right next to the road, and he said those heifers never look better. And once they got a taste of said knapweed, which I don't think is super tasty at that, they basically mobbed it, and he just kept moving. And then after one grazing, it looks like a cool season pasture again, but all that knapweed. This is all knapweed. Like there's some grass in there, but it's still. But at that point, it's very vegetative, and he hit it again in the fall. And so we had a little food of knapweed plot where he was doing compost. So we were throwing kitchen sink, try the compost. What happened was the compost just brought everything happier. Woohoo! What actually happened with just compost alone just brought diversity out. So the cool seasons did good. Whatever is there just said, oh, stoked. So there was like this like great, but there was still a lot of knapweed. But it's very vegetative at that point. Yes.
That's gonna be a dumb question because I don't want to say this out loud, but we don't have knapweed yet. It was soiled great and the cows were great. Why get rid of it?
Monocultures are never good in anything on my farm, you know, and there will be something that will make that knapweed, you know.
Once you have it, it takes over everything.
Yes, because it's very aggressive. On the grazing, I'd like to say, because I didn't know it, as I said before, 20 years ago, I had a paddock I set stocked on. When I started rotationally grazing my animals, I stripped it into a 28-day rotation. So I had seven paddocks, and I more than doubled the stocking rate I had on the set stock, and that really did well. I just didn't know what I was looking at the time. I didn't recognize knapweed, but I really think that did quite well through the summer, because I think with the compost picture you just saw, Troy, that if he could keep those other grasses going and you get the cows to take everything down for a couple, 3 years, the grasses will excel because the knapweed's dependent on the seed to propagate. Just my opinion.
Yep. Dan at Black Willow Pond Sheep Farm. So they put sheep out here, and what he texted me is like, these sheep are not thriving. They are not thriving on this. So even though they're basically taking the leaves and things, he said they were going backwards. Now it could have been minerals, could have been. I thought, oh, this is great forage. They do great. I don't know if it was the tannins. I don't really know. All I know is he sent me this picture in the after and said, yeah, they're not doing great. But he might have pushed them to landscape, but I was kind of thinking that they just normally like broadleaves. So I'm still curious about that and curious about what your experiences are and why even they're just eating the leaves, they're eating the flower. What's interesting is that we took soil samples in the fall here last fall, and I mean it's still very prevalent. I mean it's super prevalent. That's a picture. He said, "Oh, look." I said, "What's going on here?" Well, that's where he fed bales a winter ago. So you can see that bale grazing or that animal impact significantly made it a difference. So it's right there. We know kind of how to make it better, but there's at least 100 acres of that. Now Dan is talking about for this coming season. Right now they're rolling bales down this mountain. You can probably look them up on Instagram. They're doing that, and he's talking about putting corn in, like strip corn, just to till it. So tillage is another tool. So he's desperate to, and not he's desperate to get it control, but not with chemicals. So tillage is another tool. I said, I'd love for you to not just do tillage, but do no-till, do a few things so we can all like, well, what worked, what didn't, put a cover crop in, these other things. Because really what happens in the fall is the swards are pretty open because there's no grass. It's just kind of these clumps of knapweed. So then we come to Mr. Atwell and some of his observations.
Yeah, this is where I'd fed bales, and it was when we had a terrible amount of snow. So I was dropping them on end and overfeeding the heifers because I was worried about their condition, which they did fine. But you can see where I set a bale, and that one right in front of me, I didn't go through with the no-till drill, putting in a diverse cover crop mix. I was almost out of seed. I just went over there to say, what'll happen? But you can see the circle behind me, and that's what I'm standing in there. Just amazing, what I grew. So I'm very much looking forward to see what propagates there this spring. Because in that cover crop, I had clovers, grasses. I had pretty much leftover seed, anything, and I've got a lot of different seeds. This is some of the spots I bale graze on my farm. The knapweed I can influence pretty well like this. But I also have to be careful on spring thaw if I start putting them in a spot and let them churn a little too much or corners. I think the biggest thing is just changing my management. Don't ever go across anything in a prescriptive manner. And the bale grazing, I can turn very marginal ground around, especially wet ground, because as you can see, that snow makes a pack. And there's right there where I'm unrolling that hay 2 years ago in June, I was trying to clip the pasture and I couldn't waddle up through there with the tractor and disc mower. I left ruts 2 foot, and you go in there and roll bales like that, and it really changes. Knapweed is not a terrible problem there because I think it's so wet. I don't have it as bad, but on the high spots, you'll have clumps of it.
So when we were there taking soil samples, that was during the drought or whatever, dry weather. I don't know.
It was the driest we'd had in 30 years.
Yeah, it was a drought. No-till did not take. Now, Leanne was telling us, oh, yeah, it did. Look at him looking down. Oh, yeah,
hey,
there's
I found some pea plants.
Yeah.
I found some
soil. Oh, you were looking hard.
2.
You were looking at that. We again, kitchen sink approach. Like, let's try some things. That did not work.
But I'm not going to say if you grazed it, went in and no-tilled it, and then turn around and grazed it again with the right class of animals to make them take it down. I'm not going to say, because if you got the nutrients there and if you can get a lot of that stuff started, they will come along. It's not the answer, but it might be something to try, on your farm. Everybody's farm is different. We have talked a lot this week, these last couple of days, about interseeding or no-till, whatever vernacular, but that usually tries to set back the competition of said weed, whether get it down with mowing or grazing or whatever, and then try to get a seed thing in. But it's all about timing. If there's
up here. There was no rain for what, 90 days? It's not going to work real good.
I'm gonna say though on the no-till that if you get the seed there sometimes and you can impact it later on, if that seed didn't germinate, that seed could be viable. Because I've had a field years ago I no-tilled into that I thought it was a colossal failure. The cooperative extension agent was, I've never seen one this bad. And I will tell you, 2 years later, there was a lot of the species I'd planted came in because when I no-tilled it, we were dry through that summer. I don't think it germinated.
Did you have a question, Mark?
I do. Knapweed is allelopathic.
It is.
And you say the cover crops work or finding some success with them. Is that going to be species specific in terms of what works and what doesn't? And I didn't know that the chemical that was a little, it's called catagen or something along those lines. In terms of the resistance against it, different seeds or different plants are going to have resistance to that allelopathy. And I was wondering what you were actually using, because one cover crop might work while the other isn't.
That's a pretty good point. I'm glad we got it on tape. Like the class of seed or the class of plant species should sort of match, right? If they're too similar, they're right. It's very competitive.
Yeah.
So
you need a seed that is resistant
correct.
to that allelopathy, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't. We're all learning.
Yeah.
If you come
Anybody
up with
has
a
some good
seed,
ideas, I'd love to try them.
you come up with that seed mix and you give me it, and we'll go do something.
It's species specific, and I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that little bit of tidbit there. So on our farm, we've been fighting it, and we didn't have it a lot. I've been on my 40-year journey of grazing, but when we transitioned to organic, we bought a lot of hay. And when I was rolling the hay out, I said, "Oh, this is really nice hay. It has a lot of clover in it." Oh no, that's not clover. That's snapweed. Oh, so I literally seeded a fair bit of my land in knapweed. Now there's some other factors, and I have all the grazing charts because I'm the grazing chart guy, that I can take you back to when we had the in that time period. We also had a really dry summer, and knapweed loves dry. It's one of the things that grows the best. So while you're the cows are picking over the better stuff and leaving the knapweed, it's like, yeah, we're coming, and then when you nap on knapweed, and the seeds are coming, and you don't manage, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got these. And I believe, now I could be wrong. I took a holistic management course with Ian Mitchell over here in Massachusetts, and I kind of remember it. I'm scared to say it on camera, but I was convinced that we should be mob grazing and there would be no more mowing, and long rest periods were the thing to do. So I went home and I told my father, we're not mowing no more. He didn't talk to me for like 3 weeks, because he liked, keeping that vegetation. He had that job and he was pissed. And of course, I forgot my holistic training. Yes, you're supposed to ask all decision makers, not just be the one. And so we talked then. Knapweed and those kinds of plants love rest. They love rest periods in the Northeast of 60 to 90 days. Oh. So I think the knapweed problem is mine to own. And then these weird things kind of happen and coexist. Like, oh. So I think I've been fighting my mismanagement for this many years, but then it's a great reminder that nature, they're there for some reason. And so for us, this flowering thing has been it's all about timing. And so last year, I know I was talking to a young lady this morning. I literally mow pasture, never use it. I have so much feed ahead of me. I just mow it down. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I know it's wasteful, I suppose. But since this field is mostly, it had a fair bit of knapweed, I wanted to try 3 mowings because I had plenty of forage. I wanted to see what just mowing. So I went right out early. I should have turned cows into that. I just mowed it because I feel like diesel, I can use less diesel when the grass is only this tall and I'm mowing it versus, bush hog. So I did that. Then I did it again. No, I did it twice, May and June. And then I did it again. And I really hit it. I really impeded it. I kept taking it. And it's beautiful forage. And there's a lot less knapweed. Now, I'm not a researcher. I didn't count the plants per foot. I don't know how percentage wise. I don't know. But visually, and the way the cows attacked it, I like that. But who's going to mow 3 times and never do a thing with it? That's insanity. Like that's not very regenerative. Yes. No, which is great. Now this one here, you can't really tell. I had this idea because hey, it's my farm. I'll do what I want. I let it. I love bees, so I said, all right, we're gonna let it flower, and I'm gonna have my tractor and things ready. And I basically dropped the mower half, and I mowed off the flowers. There, it's perfect. Then I turned the cows in, and they, kind of cleaned up and stuff. And I thought, there, I've got it. Next year, it's like I didn't do anything. I'm like, oh, I took the seed source away, I took the blossoms. That's what I should be doing, right? Didn't really have that much of effect. I was like, oh, man. So again, this fall I got hills, started rolling bales down, and I'm going to keep kitchen sinking it to the next. This works. Everyone's proven that bale grazing. But I got so many acres, like I'd have to buy thousands and thousands of bales as fertilizer / control mechanism to cover the land. Yes.
Question for you, thanks, on, took the flowers off, the heads off, cows went in, put the chomp on, and then did it try to flower again?
Oh yeah. It's relentless.
Well, I'm only asking because knapweed's not really my world, but parsnip and chervil, same family of plants. Parsnip will keep trying to flower into October.
Yep.
It doesn't care. It's like, I'll flower 2 inches tall, you're not gonna stop. Boom, boom, boom. Chervil, same family of plants. Take the head off. It will weekly throw out a little symbolic, you gotta throw out another flower. But then it's like, okay, fine. I'll spend 10 years building a root. You're not going to let me flower. So I don't know what knapweed does, but I'm up for that question.
It's very valid. There's scientists that's all they study is knapweed. In the West, it's a real problem. Like, I feel like this is not my talk. We bring the experts in to find out all these nuances. This is much more sustainable in my way of thinking. So there's knapweed in there, and so we talk about competing it out. So I let it grow up to prairie, and I mobbed it. And what because you're mobbing, you're forcing them to eat more and doing all kinds of cool stuff. They basically defoliate just like sheep. They defoliate it, right? So this is the aftermath, like 45 days later. You just don't see a lot. But there's a lot of biomass. So again, you're building some soil health, the plants. I don't know what that dynamic means for knapweed, but this has been a good practice. And then I took the soil samples from that spot to see if it was much better than the mostly knapweed, and was the same. So
Did you look into anything to your fungal to bacteria ratios or anything?
Oh, good one. So, I'm glad you brought that up because Nicole Masters, who I really enjoy, she's my head hurts when she's talking about fungal to bacteria ratios and those types of things. Is why we're moving towards the thicker species and the weeds, and we need to bring it back to more back. I don't know exactly how that context plays out. Do you?
I've got a little idea. Well, you get in a bacterial rich situation, you need the fungal to help the, for lack of better terms, transportation of your microorganisms, because it creates a wet surface for it to go to travel on. One thing I've noticed where knapweed is when I impact it during the growing season, it's heavy on knapweed. It doesn't seem to decompose as easily, in my opinion. Like anywhere that I've put them through on a high mob, it seems like quite a while. But now if I bale grazed on it and you put them through in the same scenario, you seem to eat up the organic matter you're putting on the top of the ground. So part of me wonders if that, because I've got some knapweed ground that very monoculture of knapweed, and if you unroll bales there, they're a lot slower to get consumed in than spots that you've kind of got it kick started earlier.
There is something to the ratios, and I am not a scientist to be able to explain, because there's a tipping point, and again, that's coming. There's a lot of talk on that ratio, and especially in the context now of, well, I don't know if we can even call it in the context of regenerative farming, but regenerative farming has had a tendency to have more biomass and more trample, and that biomass does sway the bacteria fungal ratios. But again, I keep reading and I keep listening. I was like, what's, and then I can't necessarily measure. I can't measure. I have to measure it with this. What does that look like on the land? The optimal. Anyway, I'm still learning.
I have a question. And I think in general, species diversity is for fungal activity, right? But the more diversity, the better.
It's going to enhance it. Yeah.
So that
yeah. I believe a lot of the bacterial rich environments flourish because of chemical and mechanical disruption of the fungal, or the fungal, because the fungal, I think, is a longer process for it to develop in the soil, where when we're stirring it or adding chemicals, you're kind of killing it back so that the bacterial's a high ratio to the fungal.
Yes,
Mark. Then I had a good question back on your multi-mowing in 1 year. Was that last year, or was that
last year?
You don't know what's going to happen in those spots.
I know what happened in the fall, and I like it. So what's it going to be like this year? I'll assume it's going to be way better.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
Something else to think about in terms of your fungal activity and your bacteria. Back to what I said earlier, the little effect. It affects the plants. It probably also affects the bacteria and fungi.
Could be.
I did a calf-assed demonstration. We put 10 by 30 little strips in. So we threw some kitchen sink stuff. One thing, Eric put biochar. I've heard about biochar. Let's throw some biochar in and see what happens. I overseeded it with whatever I had in the bag, oats and stuff. The problem is it didn't rain. It stopped raining. So it was it's not research. It's just a farmer doing half-ass shit. So we threw it on there, so I kept the cows out of there from July right on through to the fall. And finally they're coming around the last turn. I was like, all right, I open up the polywire and see what they ate. Oh my God. They killed the biochar strip right to the dirt. I was like, what's up with biochar? What are they getting? What's like? could you give, hey, Bossy, can you give me a little feedback on that? Like, what was going on? I mean, they literally, I couldn't find the picture, but it was so stark between this strip and any other strip. Whether it was more nutritious or dense, or I mean, it tasted like chocolate. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe it's just different.
Different. The compost, you know, obviously tasted like, you know, this isn't quite finished. The seeding, what was a dismal failure. So again, we're trying little things on that farmers would do.
Did you get the sense that the cattle went after the area that had the biochar?
Yeah, yeah.
The biochar itself.
What do you,
Like if you were to offer biochar.
Oh, I don't know.
Mineral bin, like, would they?
Oh, I don't know.
Reaction from the biochar.
I don't know. We just threw it on the ground. So
Was it still visible on the ground?
oh God, no, it's a dust. I was like kind of laughing, you know, we're taking this bag of dust. That's really what biochar looks like. And, you know, it was a little windy. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. We got this free bag of biochar. So anyway, it was very stark. So another, this curveball, so my partner and I generally have finished animals for quite a while. And so my partner and I were looking over the cows. I opened up a gate and they were coming through the gate. And I don't know, we were having a can of beer and we were looking at the cows. He said, damn, those cows look good. I said, yeah, they do. They look really good. Well, what's the problem with knapweed then? Like, we're grazing knapweed. We're grazing knapweed in the pasture. Some has more than others. There's spots. You know, we don't have 100% areas anymore. There's mixtures, there's diversity, whatever. The cows look fantastic. The calves, super slick. Everything's great. Why are we worrying about knapweed? It's just part of the ecosystem. It's part of the diversity quotient. So way back when I was grazing on some leased land that was complete knapweed, I was back way back. I took a sample in 2009, and I sent, again, the Cornell people were like, what is this guy doing? He's sending all these buds, blossoms. What are we testing for? It came back at 135 relative feed value. If you look at your nutrient thing, that's good quality hay. Okay. So I said, well, I'll try 2025 version. So I sent that into the lab. This is what it looked like. Because the animals were eating the blossoms in the top of the leaves, right? They weren't taking the plant they were just picking. So I went out there, sent that in. Oh my God. If you had to buy 193 relative feed value hay right now, it costs you a fortune. That's real quality feed right there. Oh my God. So now we got a problem. We got this awesome forage that's way better than a lot of forages. What's the problem? Oh, jeez. And now we're back to this contradiction and why.
Because they're consuming 25% of what's there. I know if you put it in a bale and it's late, they don't do well on it. But if you bale it early, they seem to do all right and keep it wet. You know, I've had in the past where I had some ground when I first was starting that I was heavy on knapweed. I learned keep it really wet when you bale it.
This is still a good number. 64 megacals of energy is it's pretty good. There's some good vitamins and minerals that are coming from it. So another thing that happened while we were digging for the root weevils, I can't remember her name. She dug up a knapweed plant, and so the pastures had recovered about that much. It was pretty dry. So I'll say it had recovered 4 inches. She dug up the knapweed plant, and there's a picture of her. I could go back to it. She had a plant that was that long. in that and they were both cut at the same time. The knapweed grew 200% more biomass. And I was like, oh God, this is a drought proof forage, right? It grew that much like corn. I'm like, oh, now I'm really struggling with trying to kill it. Like it's so this this set of farmers that we all love observation, we all love learning, we all love practical stuff. You know, I think we're just starting the journey. We don't know, but we are trying to understand, and again, more knowledge that we can like throw at people and then they could throw stuff back. We're willing to try stuff. I think there Cornell wants to do they want to reinvigorate knapweed research a little. So they're looking at some of these, definitely chemicals. They like chemicals. We're not going to use them on our farms, but there's tillage. The other thing, Kathy Voth, I went through a course how to teach animals to eat it. So there's that. We have not done allelopathy testing, but I believe that the allelopathic nature of it impedes the animals from eating it. Tastes like crap, and it also impedes other plants. So what's that? What's that all about? What can we learn about this allelopathy? How bad is it? Because rye is allelopathic, but I don't know what the level of knapweed is. So there's some stuff left in there. And for you that have multi-species livestock on your farm, I mean, it's a great tool. A lot of us, well, I would say Leon and myself and the Weavers, we do one thing. We milk cows or we graze beef, right? We don't have sheep and goats. We don't have pastured poultry. And so putting them into the mix seems really sensible. I think those are the tools that are much more regenerative, much more, you can eat them. They're producing something. But that's not our context necessarily. Now you could say, well, we've got so much knapweed, I think my sheep and goats would love that. So we'll charge you not that much money to come over and control it. Or we need some free food. We'll bring in a herd of goats or whatever. I don't know what that possibility is because I'm not set up to graze hundreds of goats either, with infrastructure and stuff. But I think there's more to the story here. And again, we don't want to recreate the wheel here because all the research has been done in the West. There's a ton of research and they're still fighting it. They still fight it. What can we really do here?
Something when we were talking about the feed value and that, another thing I've noticed with it is anywhere it's in a monoculture, when I'm out wintering in the late fall past growing season or pre really taking off, the ground is a lot different in it. You see more soil moving, you don't have it doesn't feel like it'll hold you up as well. My farm's a fairly wet farm. And on some of my really good mixed grass stands, I can, lack of a better term, abuse it, get across it, not have any problems on a good stand. Where this stuff, if you go out into it, you'll be creating a mess pretty easily. So that's one reason why I really hate a large portion of it, because it's not good for the soil health, in my opinion.
You have really wet soil.
Fairly wet.
And that wheat is very, very deep rooted. Okay, it's going to survive in dry environments. It grows extremely well during the summer. Here's a consideration for you, and I've dealt with that past myself. Try eastern gamma grass. It's a warm season.
Okay.
It's going to compete with the knapweed from that standpoint.
Yep.
It's going to grow extremely well in wet environments as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll work, but it's possible.
I know if you have Reed's Canary, a good stand, you don't really see knapweed on it. So that's a very warm season, deep rooted, fast growing plant, so could be along lines.
Did you have something? Bruce?
So Mike was talking about the gerbil and arsenic, which he's dealt with a lot. And I really think about it that actually meadow knapweeds have a lot in common with gerbil in terms of how it grows. They're not closely related, they're totally different families, but just, I mean, what makes gerbil such an issue in the place where it's common is that it's perennial. So it grows, it grows a flowering stem and then grows these little offshoots of it that then grow back to flowering. And that's basically what meadow knapweed does. And so that's how gerbil can become so dominant in areas. It just, the same plant just keeps growing, it gets bigger and bigger, and the plants all kind of merge together, and then there's no room for anything else. And that's, again, basically what meadow knapweed does. And the spotted knapweed is totally different plant. It's a winter annual. It likes desert spaces. It's a desert plant in east. I've seen it in the Adirondacks, quite a few places on roadsides and gravel pits. And it is not a pasture. It's an pasture weed. It's only in something that needs to be a gravel pit. It's not for grass. So, and the meadow knapweed is weird because it's actually a suite of hybrids of 3 different species, and you get all of the above. It's kind of weird in that respect, but they all behave the same way. Anyway, and so what that means, though, is like gerbil, if you have a little bit of it in your pasture and your animals eat it, you probably don't worry about it that much. But once it takes over and it's starting to cut out everything else, now you have a problem. Even if they do eat it, there's not a lot else there, and you have all the soil stuff we talked about. And so, but the trick is, I mean, you know what it takes to deal with gerbil. So I imagine the same is true for knapweed. If you reach and kind of, this is what you're talking about. If you bale base on top of it, just pound the crap out of it, kill some of the existing plants, thin them out a lot. Now your population is thinner, and the problem, and then it's a forage, not a problem.
Correct.
But again, it doesn't tell you how do you solve this problem. I don't know.
Everything I have felt in my bones is it's a management. It's more of a management problem, not a fertility issue in some ways. And then there's this cultural, if you let land fallow and it gets going, it's really hard to slow it down without some kind of management technique. And so again, people are fighting it, and dairy farmers are a little bit funny. Dairy farmers have a palette that they want. They look and they say, I want a cool season here, and I want some clover, and that doesn't really fit very well. Like, they can tolerate a little, but when we're talking about, and this is a little cultural, when Organic Valley was maybe promoting regenerative, it's a little bit taller. So they're saying, hey, farmers, we'd like for you to not graze quite so well. The knapweed says, I'm in with that. So then the flowers, so then it's definitely more diverse. But once that seed bank gets going, and then all of a sudden the dairy farmers are like, I like this, but I don't like that, and I don't spray. So what can I do practically wise to keep it under control? And again, most farms where I live are taking over land that was mismanaged, so they're already behind. So but again, it's a forage. I have proven, and they will eat it. They will eat it. They will eat it when it's vegetative, but it's that time between like in July when it becomes quite unpalatable and it's not the best. Although I have squeezed the daylights out of flowers to try to find out what the Brix is. The Brix is really high. So most of my animals, when the flowers are out, the beef cows will go through and they'll pick you'll look after 12 hours, there'll be no flowers.
At dairy heifers, same thing.
So that's real food, because that's Brix that's 18%, right? So you're kind of like, maybe you are good for us. Oh, you're bad.
Well, maybe that's some of how these dairy animals are doing so well on it later on, because they're able to pull those flowers. It's balancing out some of the poor quality. And if you give them choice, they'll take the flowers and not take the poor quality.
We're out of time. So we'll thank you for your participation.
They go back in 2 years though and give us another.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's ongoing. I think we like working together, so we'll try some more kitchen sink